To go over to Capitol Hill, where Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is now speaking about the potential for a COVID-19 relief package. Let's listen.
In that respect, the situation we face now is familiar. Funding for the federal government is hanging in the balance. In the next few days, Congress will either succeed or fail at providing secure and stable funding for our military commanders, our federal departments, and key investments for our future. Fortunately, our colleagues on the Appropriations Committee and their House counterparts have been on the case. Bipartisan, bicameral committee work has full-year government funding legislation on the 1-yard line. I'm optimistic that if we can close out our other parallel business, we should be able to fund the government and move forward together. But that brings me to the way in which this year is unlike anything we've seen before. It's been more than 9 months since our nation began to feel the full force of the COVID-19 pandemic. The American people have done what Americans do when crises come knocking. Essential workers have kept our nation running. Healthcare professionals have worked day and night to care for strangers. Heroic American businesses have adapted, reinvented, and obeyed the advice of medical experts. Now we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, Mr. President. Operation Warp Speed has given us safe and effective vaccines in record time, but the American people need another bridge to those better days that are not so far off. The country needs Congress to come through with another targeted rescue package. They've waited months. They've waited and suffered, and some have died while needless political games have played out. The American people wait for more emergency assistance ought to be over. For months, I've called for a targeted bipartisan package that would put hundreds of billions of dollars into payroll support, testing, vaccine distribution, extended unemployment aid, safe schools, and other essential priorities. So I'm encouraged that our Democratic colleagues have now embraced this framework that's been the right solution for our country all this time, and a bipartisan, bicameral agreement appears to be close at hand. The outline that I've been discussing with Democratic leader Speaker Pelosi and Leader McCarthy would get another huge dose of bipartisan support out the door as fast as possible. We've yet to nail down every detail, but in broad strokes, we've been discussing the targeted second round of job-saving Paycheck Protection Program that Republicans have sought since last summer. We're discussing many tens of billions of dollars for distributing vaccines, COVID testing, and equipping safe schools to get our kids' educations back on track. We're discussing extended important unemployment programs. At the particular urging of President Trump and Secretary Mnuchin, who have continued to be the champions of cash relief for American families, we're discussing more direct impact payments for individuals, plus the bonus for families with children. These are just some of the major pillars, and equally important, Mr. President, we're agreeing to be smart about financing these extraordinary policies. Now listen to this. We intend to repurpose more than $400 billion in unspent funds, which we already allocated in the CARES Act. It turned out these funds did not need to be tapped to restore basic stability to our economy. It's time we put that money to urgent use. Like I said at the time yesterday, I'm heartened by our discussions and our progress. I believe all sides are working in good faith toward a shared goal of getting an outcome. But I will say this, Mr. President, in my judgment, we're very close to a point that arises in every major negotiation. It's the point where each side faces a fork in the road. Do we want to lapse into politics as usual and let negotiations lose steam? Do we want to haggle and spar like this was an ordinary political exercise, get wrapped around the axle of language or policy riders that we know are controversial? Or, on the other hand, after months of inaction, do we want to move swiftly and with unusual bipartisanship to close out our issues, seal the deal, and write text that can quickly pass into law? In short, we're near the point in this process where we decide if we're going to stay on the fast track or drift back toward business as usual. I say the answer should be obvious. After all these months, struggling Americans don't just need action. They need action fast. Fast. So I continue to appreciate our productive discussions, but I hope we also remember just how urgent the situation is for millions and millions of our fellow citizens. So for the information of all senators, we're going to stay right here, until we're finished, even if that means working through the weekend, which is highly likely. And if we need to further extend the Friday funding deadline before final legislation can pass in both chambers, I hope we'll extend it for a very, very short window of time. Our citizens can't afford for us to get bogged down in the back and forth. Let's finish up our bipartisan framework. Let's make law as soon as possible. That's what our people deserve. I suggest that for one.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Alexander.
All right, that was Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell talking about the potential COVID-19 relief package being considered by Congress right now. And for more on this, I want to bring in ABC News congressional reporter Trish Turner, who's on the phone with us. Trish, McConnell addressed two big questions when it comes to this package, which is the two looming deadlines. One, you've got recess coming up for the holidays, but also this looming government shutdown.
That's right, Diane. So Friday night, tomorrow night at midnight into Saturday, they need to have this deal wrapped up. And COVID relief, anything that they pass, is supposed to be tacked on to that government spending deadline. So what you heard from the leader there was a warning to both sides. He's saying that while they're close, the biggest thing I heard him say was they are right on a very precarious precipice. So, right, government funding could run out. Stop any sort of partisan activities that are happening. If you have a pet project you want funded, he says they're at a fork in the road, and that's a big deal. So we understand that the language is being crafted right now, but he is also signaling that they are at a point where this could go either way. They're really close, but they could also drift into, partisan recriminations. So that was really important.
Trish, he sounded almost a little bit annoyed, like they're so close,
yes.
They have these looming deadlines, and yet, he was kind of speaking in broader terms, but it sounds like he's accusing some of the people at the table of nitpicking at this point.
You read him well. He's really hard to read. He has an annoyingly, this poker face, steady voice, but that is an annoyed Mitch McConnell. He's saying it was good that he said, I think all sides are working in good faith. But yeah, when he says, we can go stop trying to tack on policy riders, this is, your pet project that you might want for something, but it might be something really important to a Democrat. They might want to add more in nutrition aid, and Republicans are really looking to keep the price tag down on this funding bill, this emergency relief, and also the stimulus checks. We understand that, these are going to be around $600. The qualifying income threshold, I understand from a couple of aides, there's still some bickering behind the scenes. Republicans want to lower that threshold where you would qualify for these checks. So if you remember in the first round in March under the CARES Act, everybody who made, less than $99,000 got some kind of $1,200 check or slightly lower. This time around $600, but I think they want to lower that $99,000 to something else. And so there's some fighting going on behind the scenes. That was an annoyed Mitch McConnell. It's time to wrap this up because he doesn't want to work into the weekend, but he's very clearly saying, we're going to stay here, and it's highly likely that we're going to be working through the weekend.
So, and on that note, he's saying we are staying right here till we're finished. He made that clear and said that could mean working through the weekend, as you just mentioned. He also addressed the funding deadline, saying that he hopes if they need to, they can extend it for in his words, very, very short period of time. Can they get this done regardless?
Yes, I think absolutely they're going to get this done. I don't normally make predictions, they have tied themselves to this post. They're not leaving this chamber essentially, till they strike some kind of a deal. Now we have been hearing that A number of members don't want to enact any sort of short-term government funding. They don't want to pass that and give anyone any breathing room. So that means a government shutdown, in the minds of some, is not such a bad idea. It's a terrible idea in reality, but they think that if something like that happens, it really keeps people at the table. It keeps the heel on the neck. Like, make sure you get this deal done as fast as possible. If you buy these, I've been doing this for a long time. If you say, all right, we're going to extend the government funding deadline through Sunday or Monday, they will absolutely take till midnight on Monday or whatever that deadline is to get something done. It's kind of like, some of us did with our homework, writing that paper at the very last minute.
So we could see this funding deadline as an attribute in that respect. It might help them get this done quicker.
Yes, exactly. It really might. And these guys hate to work on the weekends. So that's another, motivating factor is getting everything done, by the end of today. There still is hope for that. The number 2 Democrat in the Senate just a little while ago said he still thinks it's possible to get that done. And really important on this point, the extreme ends of the caucus of the Senate who want different things out of this, far left, far right, they had been threatening to hold this up for various reasons, but we have every reason to believe from aides and from the members that they're not going to do that. So this particular deal has an open highway to approval as soon as they can get it done. But the other thing that we're hearing is, writing legislative text, it takes a really long time. And so there's also a lot of that going on right now. And it just eats up hours and hours. I've been around for, through the night waiting for legislative language to come out on a short bill. And this thing is going to be gigantic.
Well, Washington working together, this is something we haven't seen in a while, so at least we can look at that as a bright side. Trish, if they get this done by Friday, how long do you think before people actually start receiving those checks?
That's a great question, and my colleague Ben Siegel was looking into this. According to a couple of sources, it'll take a couple of weeks at a minimum to get the machinery of government back up and running. We don't know about the holiday factor. The federal government's not open around the holidays. So we don't know if that, that'll create a little bit more of a delay, but certainly they have the muscle memory now built into the system where, they know the people who file their taxes. They have a straight line into their bank account with a coronavirus relief check. If you qualify, we went through all of that in the first round, all the just torturous, months of trying to get everything to work. Well, now they've gone through all of that, so we do believe it'll take less time this time around, but it's not something that I think it's safe to say, Diane, that we wouldn't see these checks in people's accounts for Christmas. We think that's a bit too quickly.
All right. Well, the clock is ticking. Congressional reporter Trish Turner, great to have you, Trish. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.